What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Watch What You Say podcast. I am your host, Beaux Emerson. We are here for episode, is it 4 or 5? Episode number 4. And episode number 4 is, that's not what I said, but it's what you heard. So we're going to start off by, I just had to tell you what happened to me today at the supermarket. So I just ran out to pick up some groceries for the house, and I walked down the not the meat aisle, the frozen food, one of those aisles or whatever, where it's like open space. And so I'm walking, and there's this guy kind of staring at me, tall Hispanic gentleman staring at me, and at first I'm thinking he's looking at the person that's like behind me, like here, and so I walk past and I kind of do my side eye, like, okay. And so I go and I pick up stuff down another aisle, and then I have to go get a card for someone. And as I'm getting the card, I look up, and you ever be someplace and you feel like something is like watching you, like there are eyes on you? And I had that feeling. And when I looked up, there was the same Hispanic gentleman in the aisle, and he said, "Hola," and I said, "Hola, me no speak English, me no speak español or pequeño español." He said, see, and I'm like, a little, you know boxing? I said, yes. You box. I said, I can, but I don't. No, you box. I said, no. And he says, calls his wife over, and it's just that thing with my hand, but anyway, calls his wife over, and he says, see, the boxer, and he says, I said, do you mean Adrien Broner? Yeah, the boxer, he had to fight with so and so. And I said, yes. I get stopped quite a few times asking me if I am the boxer, Adrien Broner, and I had to say no. He's like, you look like him, pull up on your phone. So I pull it up on my phone so they can see. He says, see, same beard and hair and build and muscles and but you just don't have the money yet, do you? I said, no, not yet. I don't have the money yet. And he says, but you know what? It's not all about money. He said, because, the Bible says, the man has, profits the world and has money, and I said, but loses his soul. He said, yeah. He said, you don't want to lose your soul, buddy. You know the Bible? I said, yeah, I know, God. He said, okay, man. I'll see you later. I said, thank you. I said, but yeah, maybe I'll play him in the movie or something like that. We're around the same age, I think. But yeah, that was a moment today, literally before we got here to record. So yes, I guess my celebrity lookalike, or one of them anyway, is boxer Adrien Broner. So, or Broner, excuse me. So, if you see pictures, do side by sides, but let me know what you think. But yeah, I thought that was very, very, funny, but today we are talking about, again, just communication, miscommunication, and like the title of our show is, that's not what I said, but it's what you heard. And so we don't hear with our ears, we hear with our wounds. And that's kind of stuck out to me, because sometimes we base our reaction and filter, especially when we're in arguments with someone, if it's your wife or significant other or whatever, you filter your responses based on previous arguments. Am I right, sir? I'm not getting you in trouble, I swear. So with that said, let's get into more of our show. Welcome back to the Ed Sullivan Show. No, I'm just kidding. So segment 1, decode the disconnect. Our micro lesson is kind of talking about cognitive bias versus tone bias. And so I had to look up the definition to make sure that I am of sound mind. So cognitive biases are systematic errors in thinking that arise from the brain's attempt to process information more efficiently. They are unconscious and can impact our choices and judgments without us even realizing it. So an example of that would be the tendency to favor information that comes from pre-existing beliefs that we may have, and those pre-existing beliefs can be stuff that we were taught as kids and learned in school, and that as you get older and you live life and learn, then some of those things you kind of learn that they're either not true, or you find different interpretations of that information. Another example of that would be kind of what's called an anchoring bias, and what is simply kind of the over reliance of information that you get firsthand, that you encounter when you make decisions. And then probably another one is probably when we estimate the likelihood of an event based on how easily the kind of example comes to our mind. So those are kind of some of the cognitive biases that we encounter. So now when we talk about tone bias kind of refers to the expressed or perceived notion or tone of communication. It's kind of the way in which the bias is conveyed. So it's most of the times it's kind of subtle through word choice, kind of selective language that we use. Sometimes we know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it in an argument to trigger someone, or we know what to say, how to say it, and when to say it in tone so that we can get what we want. So subtly through word choice, emotionally charged language, or even some nonverbal cues. And I know I'm guilty of that, being able to have full conversations with people without saying a word. And it can just be purely done with facial expressions. So some examples of tone bias would be, again, using emotionally loaded language to sway somebody on your side or sway someone to your perspective. Employing kind of some sarcasm or belittling tone in an argument when referring to opposing viewpoints. I know we see a lot of that in today's politics with the Republicans and independents and Democrats. And if you look on some of the shows, people are just saying the worst thing or the craziest thing that comes to mind just for clickbait, just for views. Even if they don't actually believe it themselves, they're just using it because they know it's going to fire up a base on either side, particularly one side more than the other. But it's going to fire up the base, and it's like a dog whistle, certain language and certain tones. And also making generalizations that lack nuance. So that would be that all black people are lazy. That's not true. And I just hit the mic. But anyway, or all people who are 18 and under, or all teenagers are horrible and don't know, what they're doing or think they know everything. Those are generalizations that don't work or not true. So sometimes the tone in which it is said is biased. Why I'm fine hits different if someone says I'm fine and you're having a conversation. Usually when we speak to people, hey, how you doing? Or I'm good, or I'm fine. It's kind of doesn't go any deeper than that. But if you really pay attention and listen and hear the tone when they say I'm fine, it could be hidden behind stress, trauma, or even culture. And so we want to be careful about the tones that we use when we use them when we're engaging one another, because tone matters. You can say something in a nice way that will get you what you need or get you what you want in a given situation. And at the same time, you can say something and the tone can be so off that now the person who is hearing it shuts down, and then you either get nothing or there's an argument and there's a combative exchange that happens. So we want to be careful with our tone. Oh, if you only knew. If you only knew what it took to make this particular episode. But anyway, I digress. Things happen, in the podcast world and in general. If I'm sweating, it's, just got finished doing some work, and so kind of centering myself and focusing and getting back to this podcast. And so, story time. Essentially, we're going to talk about a text thread, as you would imagine, that most of us, whether you have an iPhone or one of those other Androids, most of us are in some text thread, some group chat form or another, and sometimes there can be a lot of miscommunication. And I can hear our fan. Real time, folks. Real time.
Staying in.
Woo. That's how we do these things. But anyway, so as I was saying, if you have an iPhone or an Android, most of us are in a group chat of some form or another, or text thread. And so sometimes text threads can lead to major arguments in friendships. And I think this is all real, people. This is how we do these things. But anyway, so so a time when there was an argument in a group chat. One time it got so bad that 2 people left the group. And you know it's bad because then you get that automatic alert if you have an iPhone. I don't know if they do it for Androids, but if you have an iPhone, it'll say that, John Doe left the group, Jane Doe left the group. And so depending on the nature of the conversation that was had prior in the text thread, that something's went down. Friends are not talking to each other off of a miscommunication. Somebody responded with the letter K instead of spelling out OK, or LOL instead of saying, LMAO or whatever. Just a bunch of nonsense that is just based off of miscommunication instead of picking up the phone and calling someone or doing a direct message to that person. So be careful out there in your text threads, in your text chains, because ergo, we all make mistakes and have errors. And sometimes you'll send something or be thinking something else and you'll type something. And even if you unsend, I still think that, right? Does it always, can you delete it? Do you know?
I think it still goes through.
It's the see. That's a problem. They need to be able to invent something where if I send it by mistake, if I catch it in between, there should be like we have if you drop food on the floor, I don't do this, but some people, if you drop food on the floor and it's like a 5-second rule or whatever, I don't believe in that, but there should be something like that for responding in text messages because, people are doing things all the time. And so, I didn't mean to send that response or that or that picture or something. And then you try to, delete it. And if they still get it, then you end up being in trouble. So I said all that to say, watch yourselves in your text thread because it can lead to issues. And if you're having an issue with someone, don't, be a keyboard thug necessarily. Pick up the phone, call them, work it out, because 9 times out of 10, it's probably not that serious. And if it is that serious, you would probably rather have the conversation with that individual and not have all these other people being able to see what's going on. So mind your text threads. All right, folks. So now it's kind of going off script a little bit. So I want to talk about something that I did this weekend. Friday night, I went to see Fantastic Four: First Steps, and I have to say, as you can see, I have on my Galactus shirt. I did have a Fantastic Four shirt, but I wore that already, and so I wasn't going to repeat that and wear it again for the podcast. That's just how I do things. Sue me. Well, not sue me, but just that's how I do things. But anyway, I have my Galactus shirt, and so what I will say without no spoilers, but the first 10 minutes of the movie, the opening, oh my God, it blew me away. And I saw Thunderbolts in the theater, which I thought was really, really well done and good. And then prior to that, I saw, what's the Captain America 4: Brave New World. I think Fantastic Four: First Steps beats those two movies. Probably visually speaking, not in terms of storytelling. If I'm going to say storytelling wise, message wise, I would have to give that to the Thunderbolts, I think, because the characters are very grounded, and it's not necessarily everybody having superpowers or all that kind of stuff. There's some real things going on there, especially where mental health is concerned. If you haven't seen Thunderbolts, go see it. Well, not go see it, but it's streaming and on your cable and your illegal whatever you use to watch stuff these days. But Fantastic Four, like I said, the first 10 minutes opening, amazing. Visually, the colors are bright, and the way that they do space in this movie is something that I've never seen done before. And people may compare it to Star Wars and things like that. I'm not necessarily a Star Wars stan. I've seen all of the Star Wars movies and some of the shows, and even things like Star Trek. I think whatever technology that they used for this movie, it is new and hasn't been used before, because I haven't seen anything like it. And I have to say, one of the highlights is seeing Galactus on the screen. The visual world that he is in, that he's a part of, is just I have no words. It really, I was blown away. The story was good. The ending, I was surprised, which was good because I haven't been surprised in a while. I'm usually able to predict certain things, and that's just by me having my actor's hat on sometimes, that I can't really turn off, even when I just want to go to the movies and enjoy myself. But I think it was a really good movie. I'm probably going to see it again this week, and I'll probably see it 3 times total, which I haven't done for a movie in a long time. So if you know me, then you should know that I really do enjoy this movie, and I think it's definitely worth you going to see it. Pedro Pascal is excellent as Reed Richards. Vanessa Kirby is great as Sue Storm. Jonathan Quinn is good as Johnny Storm, and I'm forgetting the other guy's last name who plays the Thing, but they all did an excellent job with the characters, and there's some few surprises in there, and the whole, from the previews you can tell that it's like 1960s, almost gives you the Jetsons vibe. So I'm very pleased with Marvel with that. So if you haven't seen Fantastic Four, I highly urge you to go see it. You will not be disappointed. Now we're kind of getting into the science of sounding wrong, and how our emotional filters, and how our emotions filter, how we deal with stress, insecurity, and past conflict warp our messaging. Think of this, they have what's called a mirror back method, and essentially is you're having a conversation with someone and they say, blah, 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 and then you repeat back to them, hey, here's what I heard. This is what you said. Is this right? And that gives the person the opportunity to hear what they said back to themselves out loud. So then you can begin to process and analyze. Okay, I may have said that, but it's not what I meant. Or it is exactly what I meant. How you heard it is what I meant to say. And then you can kind of gain the ability to bridge the access in the conversation, so that you can kind of cut off any instance of starting an argument, and can even end an argument. It can be, hey, you know what? This is what I heard, but that's not what you said, or this is what I heard and maybe that's not what you meant. Okay, well, let's talk about this. What did you mean? What exactly are you trying to let me know? What are you trying to say in the situation? And then you're able to, one, squash the beef and move on, or you're able to really have the necessary conversation, hammer out the details of what you're trying to accomplish from each point of view, and come to a conclusion and of sound mind. And our word to the wise this week: your message isn't just what you send, it's what they receive. Own both. Call to action would be, you know, think about a time when you got lost in translation, when you were dealing with sending messages in a text thread or a text conversation. Did you mean to say what you said? If you didn't, did you reach out to that person and do some type of corrective action to ensure that you were all on the same page? If not, we have some work to do. Be careful. Watch what we say. Watch what you do. And remember that your voice matters.